Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Did You Know Theory episode. This one is definitely going to be interesting. So if you end up enjoying it, please don't forget to hit the like button and I'll have a link to Dialmark's original theory post down below. But let us get right into it. So it's no surprise that Jax is one of the most mysterious champions in the League of Legends. I mean, Jax's race, birthplace, and residence are all more or less unknown. And on top of that, he does not look very ordinary. I mean, he's insanely strong from his lore. He has 3 fingers on his hand, he's purple, he has supposedly what looks to be 6 eyes, or maybe there's just the face he's had behind the mask, and there's a strange figure that is probably Aatrox right behind Jax in his artwork. So there are so many questions towards Jax and just really talking about who he really might be. And we'll be going through various possibilities throughout this video. Now remember guys, this is just a theory, so at the end of the day, this all could be 100% true or 100% untrue. So let's first start things off with what we actually do know about Jax. The first thing that we know is the fact that he was the soldier for hire before he joined the League of Legends, and that it is seldom the case where a champion is defined by his actions after joining the League of Legends rather than before, which is the case for Jax. And what happened with this is the fact that Jax was just so darn strong that they ended up putting a restriction on him. And Jax, as a means of protest, actually restricted himself to only being able to use a lamppost to fight. However, after the restrictions were actually lifted from Jax, he continued fighting with the lamppost, really showing off the true dominance of Jax and just how overly powerful he is. Oh, and his judgment was the quickest in League of Legends history. So definitely a lot of unique and mysterious things happening with Jax here. Oh, and by the way, we will not be covering the possible connections between Jax's appearance in the league and the sudden disappearance of Reginald Ashram, because apparently that is no longer canon. So to sum it up, he's a self-proclaimed Grandmaster at Arms, he used to be a merc for hire, and he's also from an unknown race. But the next fact that is actually kind of interesting is the fact that on Riot's website under Jax's profile, he is listed as having some form of relationship with Ionia, which if you're unaware is simply an island nation off of the east coast of Valorant. So this might explain his previous actions as being a soldier for hire within probably Ionia. But here are a couple more interesting facts. Jax and Gragas are listed as friends, while Fiora is listed as his rival. But the explanation for the relationship with Jax and Gragas is actually quite simple. They're just drinking buddies. But how Jax drinks with his mask on is questionable, so maybe Gragas knows his true identity. And we'll cover Fiora and Jax's relationship in just a bit. So I mean, so far it looks like he just lives a very normal life drinking with his friends, but it still doesn't answer the question, where did he come from, what exactly is Jax, and why is he so damn strong? So with all the introduction type stuff out of the way, let's finally go into the myths and theories. And we'll start things off by talking about the relationship between Jax and Fiora. Well, let's not forget the obvious. Jax is so strong that in order to fight fairly with others, he has to use a lamppost. And within Fiora's lore, it does talk about how she was a renowned swordsman and duelist until her father brought shame to the house of Lauren, her family house. And since then, Fiora has been trying to rebuild the reputation of her family by being not only the greatest duelist in Demacia, but within all of Valorant. And who else do we know that resides within the whole continent of Valorant? Jax. So this is probably the explanation as to why she's listed as Jax's rival. But let's backtrack for just a bit. Remember that shady figure that I showed you at the beginning of the video? Well, apparently that is Aatrox. And what do we know about Aatrox? That he's a Darkin, a very mysterious race of which we know very little about. Before I move forward, I highly recommend checking out the previous theory video I did talking about the Darkin theory, because it'll definitely further help you understand what I'm talking about next. But moving on, does this mean that Jax might be a Darkin? Or maybe instead he's being controlled by the Darkin race? Or in this case, by Aatrox. I mean, Jax has a quote where he wants you to
let me at him.
And Jax is so strong that you can even say he fights with the strength of 10. Now all of these things actually relate to Aatrox's lore, where Aatrox appeared out of nowhere and helped a race called the Protectorates win a fight over the Mage Lords. And Aatrox was able to inspire these warriors so heavily that they followed Aatrox into the fray, each fighting with a furious strength of 10. So I mean, there has to be a reason why the shady figure is behind Jax in the splash work, and maybe the reason is because Aatrox also inspires Jax in some way or another, giving him the strength of 10 as well, just like he did with the Protectorates. So this could definitely explain why Jax is so unnaturally strong, but why is Aatrox empowering Jax of all people? Well, maybe Jax is actually a Protectorate himself, but keep in mind that this war I just mentioned in Aatrox's lore was a very long time ago. So this would suggest that Jax is a very ancient person, and since we know nothing of this race, it could explain as to why his race is listed as unknown. So that right there is definitely something you can think about. But there's still so many other things things to discuss. This one feels like it's a bit of a stretch, but it's still interesting, and it suggests that what if Jax and Baron Nashor are more or less the same? Now I know this seems a little strange at first, but bear with me, because if we were to take a look at the Journal of Justice, it actually states that the many neutral monsters on the fields of justice are constructs inspired by real creatures from Runeterra, and that the Baron Nashor you see on the map is actually an incomplete facsimile of the true Baron Nashor, who is now a subject of myth and legend, and how the real Baron Nashor was a fearsome and powerful beast. And it then states how when Summoner's Rift was constructed, Baron vanished, leaving no conclusive evidence as to where he went or why he left. And now we know that the senior arcane architect for the Summoner's Rift arena was said to have crafted the version you see today from no more than a molded scale, and the interviews with those who have seen the beast and lived. And remember, we have no idea what is truly underneath Jax's mask, what kind of potential creature or person he is, or what's underneath the robes that he wears. And I mean, the resemblances between Baron and the Jax that we know right now is the fact that both are purple, they both have multiple eyes, they're both extremely powerful. So what if the true Baron Nashor from myths and legends was actually Jax, and that's who people encountered and feared? Maybe he looks different now, maybe he just looks like that underneath all the robes and masks that he wears, who knows? But this is just one of the possibilities. But let us move forward and talk about another potential explanation. So if you still have not checked out the previous Darkin theory video I mentioned, then here's a very quick summary of it. It suggests that the Darkins are actually living weapons that corrupt whoever wielded them. And since Jax now uses a lamppost, we're not really sure what weapon he used prior to. And let's not forget what Jax self-proclaims to be, the Grand Master at Arms. So he was clearly so powerful using his usual weapons that he had to force himself to use a lamppost to make it even. So what if from all of this, and assuming that the Darkin theory is also true, Jax is actually the creator or the leader of the Darkin? What if he created or leads this race that can also be in the form of weapons that empowers heavily their users, such as it did with potentially Varus back in the Darkin theory, and the Darkins being living weapons? But then I'm sure all of you are wondering, well, Aatrox appeared a very long time ago to inspire all those other troops. So there's a lot of conflict when it comes to the time. But taking a look at Aatrox's Ask Me Anything thread, in there it states 3 of the 5 including Aatrox are known to history, turning up in myths, etc. The other 2 are completely unknown to the rest of the world. It's unclear whether even the other Darkin know of them. They don't talk much. So I mean, could that make it that Jax was one of them? I mean, he is extremely mysterious, he does obviously have some form of relation to the Darkin, and he is also extremely strong. Almost to the point where it's really just unnatural and inhuman. And he is known to history. So if Aatrox is one of them, Jax might be the other, and there's still one more, which could be the bow that Varus wields being the third one. So this could explain as to why Aatrox's shadowy figure was added behind Jax's profile page on Aatrox's release. Or I mean, at the end of the day, it could be that Jax isn't actually a Darkin, but he somehow gained control over these Darkins and their power of their weapons. Or maybe Jax truly is a protectorate from history and Aatrox is simply controlling him and giving him the power. Or he still has the power from back then. Or maybe it's actually neither of those and Jax is related to Baron from history. But I think the most plausible explanation is that Jax is definitely somehow related to the Darkins, else why would the shadowy figure be there? But that is it for this video, guys. I mean, that is dissecting Jax, trying to further figure out what he is or who he is. Definitely let me know below which you think of these theories is the most plausible. And if you did enjoy it, please throw in a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel if you have not yet, and also check out the previous theory episodes and my other videos as well. But I truly want to thank each and every one of you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next one. Peace.